Hi friends, it's Terry Stewart, Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Central Maryland. So I'm back with another farewell. Today we're saying farewell to Daffodil Daydream and the Daffodil dies that coordinate with it, along with a couple other retiring projects. And I have a lattice fun fold card to share with you. So let's jump in. I'm going to turn the camera. If you get sick, look away. The camera's moving. And when it moves, you see all the things above it. My head, the light, before you see my workspace. Okay, so there's my workspace. This is one of the catalogs that are retiring. Let me get my laptop going, so if anybody joins me, has a question, I can say hey and answer any questions you might have. Okay. There we go. All right, we're good. We're good. And let me put my glasses on so I can see too, because you know I always talk better when I can see. Mini catalog. So this is January to April 2023. Actually, it ends on May 1st. You can still order out of this catalog. Some of the things that are retiring may have sold out. Some have not. Some are carrying over to the new catalog, so we're happy about that. And then we have the annual catalog, the same deal. This one ends April, says 2023. It's really May 1st. You can order through May 1st. And some of the things are carrying on. Some are retiring, including this Daffodil Daydream, which I'm using today. So I was going to show you the Daffodil Daydream stamp set is on page 21. So you have this one daffodil, you have a cluster of daffodils, a butterfly, a splatter, this neat little border, and then two sayings. So that coordinates with, let me flip to the back, with dies, the daffodil dies. Actually, I went too far. And they are on page 170, and here are the daffodil dies. So you can cut out that cluster of daffodils, the single daffodil. There's a butterfly in that stamp set that also cuts out. And then you can build daffodils. There are leaves and stems and daffodil flowers and blooms and all kinds of things that you can build with daffodils. So also retiring is this brick and mortar. This is on page 176. Now it's one of my favorite embossing folders, and I'm sorry to see it go, and I've incorporated that into the project today. And Stampin' Up! Has told us that there's a color refresh coming. So we know, let me turn back, that there are 15 colors that are retiring. So the in colors, these 2021 to 20, these 5 are going. We're getting 5 new ones in, and then 10 colors are coming into, or leaving and coming, or leaving from these, and we're getting new colors. One of the colors that is leaving is So Saffron. And I'm using that today because we're going to say farewell to So Saffron. So that's cardstock, ink, markers, anything that has to do with So Saffron is going to retire. So Daffodil Daydreams, this is the stamp set I'm using, and we are using one of the dies, well actually 2 of the dies, this cluster of daffodils and the butterfly. Now this butterfly, this one has like some details. This is the butterfly that we're using. So let me show you the project. It's a lattice card. I've seen a lot of these on Facebook, and Maureen Rothfuss, another demonstrator, she did one similar to this, and this is where I got the idea that when you put the lattice on the front, you can usually see through, so it's hard to write on the inside. So she put a piece of, actually she used DSP, but I'm using this bricks and mortar embossed. I think it looks nice behind the lattice. So let me get started. I'm going to put some things aside. Here's my card kit. Now we did this card in my stamp club, my monthly stamp club. There is space if you'd like to become a member of my monthly stamp club. It's a hostess club. So once a month, one of the members gets to be the hostess and gets the hostess benefits. Speaking of hostess benefits, if you place an order with me, please use this host code for April, and the April hostess, she'll gain some benefits. Now, if your order's over 150, don't use the host code so you can enjoy the Stampin' Up! Benefits. The measurements and all the ingredients, the things that I used in this card, can be found at my blog at stampinghair.blogspot.com. You should be able to see in the description below a link to that blog post, as whether you're watching on Facebook or if you're on YouTube. And either one, I would really hope you would follow or subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified the next time I go live with another fun project. So, back to today's project. I've already done some pre-cutting and embossing. So this was a piece of So Saffron embossed with that 3D brick and mortar embossing folder. And I just love the texture it gives. I die cut the daffodil bundle and the butterfly, and we're going to be stamping those. And then I had these pieces of white cardstock, and they're lattice. Now they came off of this piece. This was 4 1/4 by 11, and then I put it on my paper trimmer, and I cut a 1/2 inch 7 times. So I got 7 pieces of these strips. They came right from there. For this card, you only need 6, so you can. One of those is extra. So let's get started with some stamping. So we're going to stamp on the base, and we're going to stamp on these white pieces, these strips, and our daffodil. So to stamp on these die cuts, these what I call blanks, they're just white, I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus. Now my Stamparatus, the Stamparatus is also retiring. We're sorry to see that go, but I'm hoping that at some point it comes back, but yeah, we won't know about that. So to do this, I'm going to show you how I set my Stamparatus up. So I put the piece that I cut, the negative, and then I put my stamp in. You can kind of feel when it locks into that opening that the die cut came from. And I've already done that for the butterfly. And once it's in, flip your plate over and pick up that stamp. So there we go. And I'm going to then put my die cut into that open space. And I'm going to do both of these one time. So we'll put the butterfly in and the daffodil bundle, and I'll bring in my Memento ink. Now this is a little high. If you take a an ink pad, actually I think the older ones are a little bit higher, it will kind of give you a table or platform. So I'm just gonna ink this up, ink both of these stamped images, and once I'm happy with that, put this ink place someplace I won't put my finger into it. I'll flip it over, and then rub your stamp down so it makes good contact. You want a couple seconds. So that one looks good, but this, I feel like this daffodil could use some extra ink. So I'm going to just ink this up again. And that's the good thing about the Stamparatus. It keeps everything right in place, and so you can add more ink to it. Yeah, I like that. And then just take your die cut out, and you're ready to proceed. Look how nice that stamped it. So yeah, Stamparatus also retiring. Sorry to see it go. I'm hopeful though that it will be back. I think maybe they're going to do some redesigning on it, and then it can return. Now I can take these stamps up, but if I'm going to reuse them, I bring in my chamois, and I can just wipe off the ink. My chamois is very wet, and clean it that way. So you have a couple ideas. So let's set that aside. We're not stamping with pumpkin pie today. We'll set that aside. We'll bring these in. So we're going to color those with blends in a moment. So I'm going to just again set those aside. And now we're going to do some stamping. And So I'll be using this long border element from the stamp set and the splatter. And we'll stamp the sentiment in this, but I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And the other thing I'm going to bring in is a scrap paper because, you know, I like to keep when I'm filming, keep my stamp area pristine. So, let's see, I'm going to flip this in there like that and just do this top. And I'm using Mango Melody. That's another retiring color. I just thought it was a little bit more colorful than So Saffron for this. I really wanted that color to stand out. And I'm just going to stamp randomly on this top piece. I'm going to rotate the stamp so I get a different pattern. It doesn't look too repetitive. Slide this down. Like that. And now we can just take it out and do the top part. This when we did this in club, it did take a minute because it had so much stamping on it, but I really liked it. And I also did 2 of the strips with that, the poles, I guess you could say, on the coming down part. So let me stamp those right now, and that shouldn't take too long because they're just about the same. The length of the stamp is just about the same length as the strip. And I'm not trying to be perfect on this because one of them gets covered up by the daffodils, so you won't even see part of that. So that's all for the speckles. Although, you know what? I'm going to do some on my envelope because I do have that. I guess I could also do the daffodil. Well, maybe not. Just do some speckles on this along the side. And that kind of teases what's inside the envelope. So let's stick that aside. The other thing we're going to do Mango Melody on is those 2 strips, and we're going to need 4 more for the cross pieces. These cross pieces that go behind the posts. So I have extra here. There. And I just am going to ink up this border and not just try to line it up. Now, if it doesn't line up perfectly, no big deal. Just do the best you can. That's what I told my club. Do the best you can. So, see, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody knows what I mean, when you give the card, the recipient doesn't know what you were intending, how much off you were. And honestly, I find that people are just so thrilled to get a handmade card that they don't critique it at all. I think it's just because you make it, you tend to know where maybe you felt like you could have done better, but hey, just do the best you can, right? That's all we can do. All right, that one's done, and now I think we're done with the ink, and we're going to start coloring. Well, I am going to put a greeting on this, but I'm going to hold off for a moment and do some coloring with my blend. So put these aside and bring in our blend. See, these are all alcohol markers, and they come in a set of 2, and these are the Old Olive, light and dark, and then I have the Daffodil Delight, light and dark. So that's what I'm using, because Daffodil Delight was appropriate, I felt, for a daffodil card. So I'm going to use the dark one, and I'm going to use the bullet end. And this one I've just used on the stems of the daffodils, of the flowers. And I'm using this coloring on my scrap paper because it will bleed through depending on how heavy you color. So just to be on the safe side, I am using my scrap paper. So I think that's all the stems. And then for the lighter, the leaves, I'm using the light one and the bullet end on that too. And the thing with blends is the color gets saturated. The more you go over it, the more saturated. So you can really control how much color you want when you're coloring. Now, I am not a big coloring fan, so I probably am going to go a little bit faster on this than my friends who enjoy coloring. For me, I just want it over and done with so I can move on to the next part. But I do love these blends because when you do color, they it's very smooth. It's a very smooth coloring process. And now I use the darker daffodil for the center flower. And I don't feel like this has to be perfect too. I kind of feel that this stamp set has a watercolor feel to it. So if I don't cover perfectly, if there's some white showing through, I think it just accentuates the watercolor feel. So I'm going to do these buds also in dark. Is there any other one? No, that's it. So now the light and the bullet tip. Hey Jan, thanks for joining. So here I'm coloring, and not my favorite pastime. I'll try to make quick work of this because I want to get on to show you how we create the lattice card. And they're all the rage. I was just watching on YouTube. Some lady was saying she felt like she was late to the party. She was showing a lattice card that she had created. And she was using DSP. So you have a lot of options. You don't have to. Like I'm using cardstock, but you can certainly use DSP. All right, so that's done. And now our little butterfly. So you can do that with the blends, but I'm going to use a blending pen. So this just picks up the color, and I have a little bit of color in the top part of the ink pad, and I'm going to color with this brush. And so I'm trying to do lighter in the center of it and darker on the edges. And just pick that up. There we go. And then the blender pen, the ink is on it, so then you just rub it and keep scribbling until it runs clear, and then you're ready to start a new color. So it becomes any kind of marker you want as long as you have water-based ink. So we're done with that, and now we can start assembling, and then we'll stamp our sentiment once we get that done. So I'm going to glue this panel, this embossed So Saffron, right onto the top of this. So I'm going to use my liquid glue, put some all the way up here so it can adhere, and this is kind of bumpy, so I want to make sure I really kind of maybe go a little bit more heavy on the glue than otherwise I would. Right, so we'll give that a few minutes to adhere. And now let's move on to creating our lattice. So the two speckled are going to be our post, and then these four with the I guess the border, about 1/4 of an inch. That's want to place them in here. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm eyeballing it, and I'm not really going to spend a lot of time trying to eyeballing it. Works fine. And then I'm going to lay these down. So I'm gluing these right to the card base, to that piece that I've embossed in the back. If you weren't doing it this way, you would, if you didn't have this piece in the back and the lattice was clear, you would create your lattice first and then adhere it to the card front. But I like this way Maureen did it, because that way you can write on the inside and you can't see that writing from the outside. Otherwise the lattice is open and you can see right through it. So that's why I liked Maureen's idea to put, well, she put DSP behind it. And I like that. I don't want, if I write inside the card, I don't want it visible from the outside of the card. Just me and my little bit of OCD. So I'm going with this version of it. Now, those are done. We're going to bring in our post and put them down. Now, before I go any further, so maybe about a 1/2 inch from the edge. So this one's a 1/2 inch from the left side, and this is a 1/2 inch from the right side. I'm going to do my, so this one I did a happy birthday greeting. My sample's a happy birthday greeting. That's from Go To Greetings. This is Happy Mother's Day, and it's right from that Daffodil Daydream stamp set. So with Mother's Day coming up, I just thought I would make a Mother's Day card. So I inked this up, and I think I'm going to put it right about here. So just give it a press and a few seconds for the ink to transfer. Perfect. So now that really is all the stamping we're going to do, and we can continue on creating our lattice. So we put some glue on this post, and then about a 1/2 inch from the left side. And again, I'm just eyeballing this. I am not using any measurements. I guess I could use the grid, but I'm not. I'm just eyeballing it. I don't think it has to be so precise. And then the next post, and this card is like really almost done. The longest part was the coloring. And then about a 1/2 inch from the right side, and just eyeballing that, make sure my post is straight. That looks about, maybe it needs to be over just a smidge. Woo, just a smidge. Like that. How's that? Okay. And our daffodil bundle, right, most of it's going to go across that post, so I'm going to use my glue. I think I thought about, and I had told my club members that maybe this should have been popped up, because you know I really love the pop dots, the dimensionals, but here's a card that I didn't use any dimensionals on, although maybe this butterfly. What do you think? Yes, let's do it, because I love dimensionals and I can. So here's a dimension. Well, this is a big one. Let's get the mini ones out. I think the mini ones they're smaller, so I could put one on either side under the wings. There we go. And remove those. Put that right there. And then I wanted a last little touch, and I'm using these brushed brass butterflies. It's like a mouthful. Use my, take your pick tool and pick up one of these largish ones. And I think that's going to go over here. Oop. kind of at an angle. Okay, so I did on my sample, let's clean up a little bit here. On my sample, I did put inside, I stamped some butterflies and this sentiment, which is perfect for Mother's Day, except I didn't bring it over here. This is also retiring. Comes from Inspired Thoughts, which is a retiring stamp set. So I think I'll just have to later on put something in here. I might put that single daffodil up the side, and maybe I will stamp the same greeting. But anyway, I have the matching envelope. So thank you for watching. If you want to place an order, use my host code. The link is in the description below. If you have any questions, hit me back. I love chatting about stamping. And I love sharing it. So please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook. And you'll be notified the next time I go live and post another fun project. Until next time, remember, stamping is fun. Bye.